We're now going to look at engineering ethics and the engineering guidelines and rules defined in the Professional Engineers Act. Before we start, the professional practice exam covers ethics and law. The ethics paper typically has a question covering a number of small details around the Professional Engineers Act relating to admission licensing and so on, and then 3 or so questions on ethical case studies that you need to deal with. When you're addressing the ethical case studies, you're typically expected to use the EGAD structure, which we'll talk about later on in this mix. And in order to answer these ethical case studies, you're expected to refer to specific clauses of the regulations. And so we will go through the regulations in the next 2 mixes. So in general, the ethical frameworks defined within the Professional Engineers Act are all about the duties that engineers have to society and themselves, and the balance between societal need, the profession's need, the employer's need, and our own needs. The types of topic covered in the Code of Ethics include welfare of the general public, public understanding of engineering, ethics around business in engineering, the duty to others and the duty to the environment now, competence and knowledge of engineering practices, when and how to sign and seal documents, how to be a faithful engineer, both faithful to your customers, your clients, your employer, and your fellow engineers, and also covers things like ensuring that advertising is fair and reasonable, and what happens in the case of a breach. So in Ontario, when we refer to engineering ethics, we're actually talking about 2 standards. The minimum hurdle that all engineers are expected to meet is the professional misconduct standard, below which you will be subject to disciplinary action by the order. Now that's in addition to any potential legal action that could be taken. The higher ethical standard, the Code of Ethics itself, is the gold standard to which we're all bound and we should all be aspiring to. So we'll look at a lot of ethical dilemmas in class over the next little while. And when we approach any ethical situation, we should really break it down into something like the following 4 steps. The first is to consider what are the ethical dilemmas that we are facing. And if we can tie those to specific elements of that minimum professional misconduct hurdle or the gold standard that are being broken by the situation, that's a key first step. We should then basically brainstorm ways that we could try and tackle the situation going forward, potentially good and bad. We can then analyze which situations, which approaches that we take are going to impact those 2 standards further, and which are actually going to move us into a better position. And then we can make a decision based on ethical grounds how to proceed with this ethical situation in a way that will have the least impact on the professional misconduct and Code of Ethics standards going forward. So that concludes this short introduction to professional engineering ethics. The next 2 mixes will go into the details of those 2 standards, the 77, the Code of Ethics, and 72, the professional misconduct standard.